the Architectural Board of Review agenda for today, August 23rd, 2010, starting with general business. Anyone in the audience would like to approach the board on an item that's not on the agenda, please step forward. Seeing no one, I'll bring that back. And close public comment. Approval of the minutes of the ABR for August 9th, 2010. Can I have a motion to open those minutes? First by Clay, second by Chris. Okay, so do we have any comments before item 1? Item 1. Item 2. Item 3. Item 4. So that's it. So all those in, sorry, Clay. Item 4.
Actually, on item 3, it has
item 3.
It has me absent, but I was here.
Okay. Do we have that correction?
Unless that's when I actually stepped out for the vote, so that's actually correct on that item.
Okay. So that's it for item 4. Okay. All those in favor of the minutes as just reviewed, say aye. Aye. Against? One abstention from Keith.
Me too.
And Dawn. 2 from Keith and Dawn. Okay. So consent agenda. Jaime, you have some comment before we start item C?
Yes, Mr. Chair. As you are aware, that we do have some staffing changes. So Tony Baum is now your staff as of officially last week, I think. And also, we're making some changes with respect to the sign committee. We have actually created a sign committee consent calendar. It's been split in 2, and we have actually 2 consent calendars. One primarily for ABR projects, and then one for projects within El Pueblo Viejo district. So we have some historic landmarks commissioners looking at those signs. And what's going to be different is that those consent calendars will be read into the record on your agendas, just like you do your regular consent calendar. And they'll be based on a recommendation of your staff member who's representing you on the sign committee, which is Don Sherry. So her recommendation would be read into the record, indicating that she's read the minutes and has asked you, are asking you to go ahead and adopt those and ratify those minutes. So that'll be something different on your agendas. As well, we have a conforming review that happens without a calendar. So one of the responsibilities we do have is to read those into the record. And since we don't have a sign committee per se, we're going to read them into the record for your ABR items. So you'll be seeing some of these projects that they were on conforming review and they were approved. And you'll be also seeing those on your agendas. So it's a couple of extra steps now you'll be doing for your regular business, general business.
Okay, and conforming review is something that they get across the counter by staff?
That's actually one member of the sign committee will do conforming. And the 2 volunteers right now is Natalie Cope, who's doing primarily the reviews for the HLC, and then Bob Cunningham, who will do ABR projects.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good. Okay, thanks. All right, so then we go to hear the minutes of consent calendar for August 16th, 2010. Do I have a motion? Keith, second by? Second. Clay, second by Keith. That would be...
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For ABR consent last week, August 16th, we had item A, 525 East Mitchell-Terena Street, got a final approval with condition. Item B, 616 West Mitchell-Terena Street was continued 1 week. Item C, 520 Castillo Street was continued 1 week. Item D, 500 block of West Mission Street That was a courtesy review, so it got positive comments and a suggestion for some landscaping. And consent last week was reviewed by Clay Orell and Chris Gilliland.
Great, thanks. All those in favor of the consent for August 16th, say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries. Motion to open the consent calendar for August 23rd, 2010. First by Clay, second by Chris. He put his hand up before you just caught you. Okay, so August 23rd.
Okay. For consent calendar today, we had item A, 616 West Mitchell Terena Street, got final approval as submitted. Item B, 520 Castillo Street, got a preliminary approval and was continued 1 week. Item C, 2222 Bath Street, was continued 2 weeks. Actually 2 weeks plus 1 day, because that'll be a Tuesday meeting, Tuesday, September 7th, day after the Labor Day holiday. Item D, 826 East Anapamu Street, got final approval as submitted. Item E, 2727 Miradero, was continued 1 week. Item F, 201 East Haley Street, that was comments only, but the reviewers said the project was acceptable as submitted. It's a temporary, basically a review of the temporary fencing around that project. So they said it was acceptable as submitted, and pending the environmental assessment to be completed, that could return to staff for a final approval.
Okay, thanks, Tony. So all those in favor of those consented minutes for August 23rd, say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries. I see in front of me here, Tony, 3rd of August signed minutes to be ratified by full board. So that's on the agenda also?
Mr. Chair, since it wasn't placed on the agenda for ratification, we're not going to read those today.
Okay, so this I'll hand back.
We'll postpone that 2 weeks.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we at item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items and appeals.
Mr. Chair, I'll be stepping down from item number 2.
Okay. Clay and Chris. Okay.
You should still have quorum.
We should be all right. Okay. Okay. Nothing else?
The only other thing is that Paul Zink will be absent today.
Okay. All right. Subcommittee reports? Any subcommittees? No? Okay, that brings us to the first item of the evening, 803 North Milper Street. We just have these 2 items? Yeah. Whoa. We should have started at 4 o'clock. Got some more work then. Okay, 803 North Milpas. Okay, that's that vacant site. Okay, I'll just read the minutes here. Last time was 5th of March. 5th of April. Continued indefinitely, full board. Carry forward previous August 24th comments 1, 3, 4, 5 as such. Number 1, the board concurred with staff recommendation for a 1-year limited approval for the temporary structure and improvements on the site, to include possibly annual review for time extensions as requested by the applicant, and a 3-year maximum approval time limit. Provide a color board. Provide the location of the air conditioning unit on the plans to be screened from public view. And 5, provide the location of the trash facility on the plans to be screened from public view. Provide appropriate screening for the proposed structure. Indicate the orientation of the trailer and the accessible ramps on the plans. And landscaping, return with a complete landscaping plan. And that's it. So if you could state your name and proceed with your proposal, thanks.
Okay, I'm Jarrett Gorin, Vanguard Planning, representing the property owner, which is 803 North Milpas Street, LLC. And I also have Lane Gidkind here, the landscape architect on this. Basically, we're back to the one of the problems we had last time was the landscaping wasn't clearly delineated and identified in the legend, and we rectified that on these plans. We wanted to have some screening in front of the structure. We looked at this and felt that really the most effective way to screen this was, rather than slapping a trellis on the structure itself, to create some trellis screening structures that we'd place in front of the structure to give us a little bit more separation between the screening and the structure, give us shadow lines and everything else. So we have 3 of those trellis structures along the main elevation of it, and then just some bamboo in a planter on the short elevation that faces Milpas Street, which will provide screening on that side. We also, the previous times we've been here, we didn't have scaled elevation drawings of the temporary structure. I was able to track those down from the manufacturer, which is Walden Structures, and so these are the exact elevations of the structure, and then this one shows the proposed screening in front of the structure, and that's, how far in front of that structure does that sit?
It probably scales out about 10 feet.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to screen the structure and the ramp, but still allow some views from that structure out into the lot so that he can monitor what's going on in his parking lot. And then let's see, we have the trash enclosure. Gary wanted a detail of the wood fence surrounding the trash enclosure, so we've got that here. And then basically the rest of our plan just picked up the previous comments of blocking off these entrances, and we still have our vegetated swales where we're intercepting all of our runoff in here and treating it before it leaves the site. And that's basically it. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Okay, and this is the ramp here,
Correct.
and this is the way you go up. That's the landing at the top.
Right.
Okay, so I'll bring that back. No public comment slips. Bring that back to staff then. Do we have any? I don't have any slips here.
We do have one for Bill.
Okay, step forward, Bill. Okay, it's the only one. You're going to press the middle of the...
I think that's...
There you go.
There we go. I'm usually not on this side. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the oldest architectural board of review in the country. My name is Bill Mahan, and I'm here just to check on the bulb out situation, because when this came at appeal before City Council, and I don't think this particular project was part of the appeal, but I just wanted to make sure that there was nothing happening in here that would have to do with the bulb outs. Is that true? Is this the existing curb to remain?
This project was never appealed or anything. There's no proposed changes to any curb or sidewalk as part of this proposal.
Okay, that's really, and so the sidewalk is all just the way it
Exactly.
Stays the same.
So that's the only problem. I just wanted to make sure that that's the way it was.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Thank you. So with that, I'd close public comment, bring it back to staff. Do we have any letters, staff?
Yes, we've got some. We forwarded these to you via email. We had one from Eric Durak. Again, he's concerned about bulb outs. And a letter from Bonnie Raisin.
Yeah,
Again, it's the bulb out
I
issue,
read them
which
and I
is
couldn't
not part of this
understand.
Project.
Yeah, I couldn't understand the connection.
Right.
So I guess it's confused with another project. Go ahead.
Right. Same
It is.
site, different project though. This will be the applicant can
It's a
explain.
separate application.
Would you like me to clear this up for you?
Yes. please.
This is the temporary use on this site. I think these people are all confused with the permanent use, which we have approved for this site, which is the mixed-use condominium retail project, which does include a curb extension, which was appealed on the basis of the city's policy of curb extensions rather than anything having to do with the project itself. That appeal was dismissed at the council. That project is approved with a curb extension right now. However, the council did request that that curb extension in the final review process be revised to ensure that we don't lose any traffic lanes on De La Guerra Street or on Milpas Street. So when we come back eventually with final construction drawings on that project site, the dimensions of that curb extension are going to change to guarantee that those lanes don't change on those streets. And that's the issue that I think these people are all speaking to, and we're well aware of it. And when that time comes, I'm sure I'll probably reach out and keep them all apprised of it in advance.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, we do have a letter from Paula Westbury opposed to this project, this temporary project before you today.
Okay. Thanks very much. With that, I'll bring it back to the board for questions. Keith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you point out where the AC units are on this baby? Are they on
They're no longer on there because we don't believe that the unit that's going to be on the site is going to have an AC unit. It's just going to be just like every other building in Santa Barbara with no AC.
Okay. So these kind of boxes at the end of the elevation here?
Yeah, that just came out of a stock elevation from the manufacturer. The one that we've actually modified to show our screening and everything. I think, well, we still show it on one side, but we don't think there's going to be an AC unit on the one that we get delivered. If there is an AC unit, it would be located on the trash enclosure side of this, away from Milpas Street.
So if there is an AC
If there is one, it would be located away from Milpas Street.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Don?
No questions.
Clay? Gary? Neither of you? Okay, I had some questions. I see that you have center to center. What is this? Where? That's it there. What is your 6 feet max? What is this dimension here by this dimension?
We haven't detailed that to that degree. If we need to, we can.
And do you have a gate? Because is this going all the way around, and how do you
We
get
have
in?
a gate. It would be front loaded on this side. But we're showing a typical detail there for that.
Should we?
Designed specifically for how many trash containers they're going to be.
We didn't draw all 4 elevations of the trash enclosure. I mean, we were asked to provide a detail of a wooden fence. We
Okay.
provided a detail of a wooden fence.
No, I don't think it was a wooden fence. Typically when we ask for the screening, if you have a gate, we'd see the gate, and we'd see something like that, which is your typical going all around, and then we'd have a dimension at least of what that trash enclosure should be, right?
Okay, well, what dimension is it on the plans? That's the dimension. These are scaled plans. I would say it's a 10-foot by 10-foot space, screened by a fence.
Okay, that's my question. The next one is...
Actually, Mr. Chair, I had one quick question. I just wanted to verify that, is this just an errant note right here, the flex area for temporary structure?
It is.
Yeah, that must have come over from one of our previous plans before we actually had a structure.
Okay, so that's all set.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Orange flame vine. Okay, that's it for questions. No AC, Milpas elevation, west elevation. If there's an air condition, it's on this side, right?
Yeah, we would request that you leave us the option for an AC, but condition us that if there's an AC unit, it is to be located on the west side of the structure, away from Milpa Street.
Okay, I bring that back to the board for comments. Keith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I would just comment that if we take any action, that part of that would condition the project so that the drawings are coordinated, just showing the actual enclosure of the trash, the gates, the AC location, and coordinate that with the elevations, just so it's real clear what exactly this is. That's my only comment.
Okay. Dawn?
I agree. No further comments. I think the project's ready for approval.
Clay? Gary? Chris?
Same. I'm fine with it.
Okay, let's make a, and I think on your drawing here, at least tell us where this ramp is going, right? Which direction, and do you have a color board?
We'll be back here for preliminary, and at this point, he's able to identify the exact trailer unit, and we will have the exact colors, and I would ask that we can bring those colors at preliminary and get approval then.
Okay, so
on the colors.
you're not asking for preliminary now?
We're asking for...
It's the first approval is preliminary.
Oh, it is preliminary. Oh, I thought it was conceptual.
No.
Give it to you, so.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're asking for preliminary. Could we come back with the color board for consent?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Do you want to give us some direction on colors? I mean, the last direction we talked about was just some neutral colors. I think,
Earth tone colors.
yeah, we can handle getting earth tone colors, but we'll have the exact colors identified because now he can pick a unit with exact colors on it.
Okay, colors back on consent, trash enclosure delineated, at least a gate design, I mean a swinging gate, some indication of your ramps here, that etc. Right? Okay.
I'll make that motion with those comments, Kathy, if you got those.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Keith. Kathy, you all right? Okay, so all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. You going already? That's the life. For our second applicant arrives. Thank you. August 23rd. We are at item number 2, 903 West Mission Street. And I will just, while you guys settle in, I'll read the minutes. Continue to staff hearing officer and return to full board The board finds the requested modifications acceptable to achieve the open space, recognizing that it is a small corner lot which makes it difficult for compliance with standard open space lot requirements. The board is appreciative of the proposed change in architectural design as it reduces the overall mass of the building. The board finds acceptable the second floor setbacks away from the garage and the inclusion of the planter element to soften that corner of the building. The board looks forward to refinement of the garage elevation to include secondary architectural elements to add additional scale at the garage doors and the lower wing of the west elevation. Landscaping. Locate the perimeter fencing 5 feet back from the existing retaining wall to comply with ordinance requirements. Study providing a landscape area between the two garage doors. Study introducing a trellis structure on the large garage door to soften with a vine planting. Study incorporating some ground cover relief at the new driveway to be consistent with the character of the neighborhood. Okay, so we also have a staff hearing officer notations, and design-wise, the Architectural Board of Review shall review the proposed window location on the second-story building with respect to providing maximum privacy for the neighbor. Okay. Okay. So with that, please state your name and proceed with your presentation.
Okay, Josh Bloomer from AV Design Studio. I'm here with the client and owner, Heidi Ferguson. And we have Chris Schilleman from Common Ground, our landscape architect. Mm-hmm. Am I on? I'm not on.
You are now.
You are now.
Do I have to do that again?
No.
Okay. All right. Let's just start with the minutes, and then I'll let Chris do a presentation on his landscape design. While we're doing that, I've got did a materials board. It's very, very simple and straightforward this time around. I think I'll start with the comments we got from the staff hearing officer real quickly. There was a concern about the windows on the second story as they face into the yard of a neighbor, and we studied that. What we came up with was a solution to I think the windows that were of most concern were, there was a bathroom window which we changed to we put that now on a different elevation than previously. I think the biggest concern was these clear story windows above the kitchen, which they are actually, I got a section here that will probably explain that clearly. What we did is we placed them up high above the kitchen cabinet, and they're mainly just there for light. So there's really no way that anybody could perceivably loom into somebody else's yard. I think the concern was looking up and seeing windows there, that these are some kind of window that would invade privacy, and it's certainly not that type of window. So, and then the other thing is that the bathroom window changed locations, and it's also going to be an opaque window. And I can go back to the elevation on that and show you. Am I going the right way? No, sorry. Okay.
So that's those high-level windows there above the kitchen cabinets.
That's right.
I think originally what the neighbor was concerned about, it was a vertical window from the floor to the ceiling.
Right.
Up here.
Change the design.
Yeah.
Instead of going floor to ceiling, it's now above the cabinet.
Okay. And so which is the elevation facing east? This one here.
This one here, but that will be opaque.
So this will be opaque here, and that's a clear story height. Okay.
I think originally, I don't have the older plan in front of me, but I think
originally this bathroom window was on the back side.
Yeah, it was facing back there.
Okay.
It's here.
So are your plans noted somewhere where that's opaque?
I don't think I have that notated at this point. We could do that.
Could we add that?
Yeah.
So that's this one here.
Actually, I was referring to this one. The window that was in question was this window back here, which we changed here and made opaque.
Yeah, and then this is a long, tall window.
Yeah, that works just like this, and we don't. We're leaving that. I shouldn't have pointed to that.
Oh, you're leaving that clear.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And there doesn't seem to be any contention about that. And the issue was mainly with this neighbor here. Very concerned about that. I think there's enough of a buffer here that this isn't
Okay.
especially with the landscape and all that. I don't have the minutes in front of me, but I wanted to make sure I go in order and don't miss anything. I think that the other item was the studying the elevations from the finishes on the garage. Do you have the...
The board looks forward to refinement of the garage elevation to include
Let's look at that
secondary architectural elements.
So what we've come up with is we're showing a lot of vegetation on here, obviously, because we've got the planter along this side, which I'll show you in section what we're doing there. But materially, we've taken this area over the garage and gone with the board form concrete. So that comes across here, and then it goes down the side of the west elevation. On the front face, the other remaining portion of the garage, we've gone with a slat detail that works like a trellis or an offset lattice. We're actually using painted steel, tube steel members or plate steel members, and we've got planning pockets. And I'll talk a little bit about what we've done in the driveway, or maybe let Chris talk about. We've left a little area here between the two drives for the different openings to let that grow up the face. It'll certainly grow off the side of here and some other locations. And it's very transparent. It kind of, it'll lift off the face of the building on the lower portions, and then at the top it'll expand and it'll be more like a guardrail. And you can see a little bit of a sense that here in the wall section that we have. And so here's our concrete, and we've got a nice deep planter so we can really get stuff growing in there. We've got at least 24 inches of good soil with some drainage.
You get some wires on here. Is that it?
This will be,
wires,
this is the board form concrete will mostly have plants flowing over it, but where we come around to the front, we'll let it drain into the vines. But I think on this board form, we want it more just to drape over.
Okay.
Not really trying to train it on the board form as much. So the other comment was, help me with that, Colin.
They're all landscaping.
Yeah. The issue with the vine pocket.
Yeah. Oh, there was one perimeter fencing, but you're going to get to that.
Yeah, I'll talk about. So we've got a detail here showing our fencing, and we've notated the ordinance that governs that, just on the plans as well. And we've indicated here new planting area between garages, which we've left this open, which will help kind of fill this little area and green that up. And then there's discussion about the driveway, which I'll let Chris get more into.
Study providing a landscape area between the two garage doors, which you showed us.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then study introducing a trellis structure on the large garage door to soften the vine planting that you talked about.
And by the way, that wraps around inside here too, so it'll kind of take that corner a bit and help fill in this little courtyard.
And then the only other one is the ground cover relief.
Yeah, I'll let Chris talk about that. By the way, we've come with details too. I want, before I hand it off to Chris, I'd like to get an approval today. We've kind of worked the materials, and I think we've gone into our building sections and wall sections and defined materially what's happening on the exterior to a pretty good level of detail. We worked out our window package and detailing. We've got some other details in here, just talking about wall finishes. I think mainly worked with our wall sections to kind of define things like base details and this kind of area where we have the metal roof kind of turning into a metal siding, coming around that rake condition or eave condition, clipped eave condition, our roof conditions, fascias. Again, the detailing there, and again here a rake condition on the metal fascia with metal siding, and then at the second floor we've actually gone with a gravel built-up roof with gravel ballast. So.
So, preliminary landscape plan, we're basically following the contemporary house and trying to keep it simple and clean as much as possible. The driveway, we're using this what's called drivable grass, which is basically sort of a permeable paver almost with little squares that grows grass in between but drains very well, sort of wrapping that also into this area. We currently have one street tree which looks kind of lonely out there, so we'd like to actually remove that one and add 2 additional trees, and we're going to work with Parks and Rec on which trees will go in there. I believe they're the brachychitons, which they'll probably require again. But we'll look into that. Basically, we've pushed the low wall back a little bit off the sidewalk and provided us a low grass in between as a sort of a buffer between the two. That also sort of plays out into the parkway a little bit in certain areas. Here, and there. And across the driveway. We also have I need to speak more with the client about this, but this area in here will either be a low, sort of a diamondia, a walkable ground cover, or a gravel with some little accents sort of poking up through there on both of those areas, and some concrete slabs here for, being able to open up the door and get out of the car without trampling. We have this little sitting terrace up in here. The concrete sort of plays through. This is all basically going to be either DG or gravel. And, real simple low ground covers, couple accents here and there, little aloe, tree aloe here, maybe some agaves in this area, low to medium succulents shown in this area, little concrete slabs that take you up to the front door. And back here is mainly utility. So we have trash and recycling, some storage, and I guess this would be the sort of gathering area for the second unit. A little bench back here in the corner. We're adding a hedge just to make that green, so as you look out from these windows, you actually see green instead of just a fence. Right, and then there's a door back here for the garage, so we've kind of put a little simple concrete slab with planted joints. And this, what you see here is the second story sort of raised planter that will have these plants sort of spilling up and out and over. That's pretty much it. Existing street tree here, large jacaranda here, utility pole, and there's a little drain inlet there. And that's mainly it.
Okay. All right. That's it. I'll go on to public comments. Yeah.
We addressed all the comments on that.
Okay, with that, I'd like to bring this back to public comment, and we have 2 speakers, Mimi Greenberg, followed by Pam Brandon. Or maybe however you'd like to do it in front. If Pam would like to go first before Mimi, that's fine too. Whichever order you prefer. There you go.
Thank you. So thank you for listening to me. I am Pam Brandon. I am the homeowner living directly next door to this project. I'm at 905 West Mission Street. And as the property owner that is most affected by this construction, I do have some concerns regarding the design plans. Yes. And I did write a letter, which I dropped off at the city this morning, so hopefully you have that. But I will bring to your attention the 3 biggest concerns that I have. The first one is the kitchen window. It is a very long, big kitchen window that does overlook into my backyard and invades my privacy. It is a window, apparently, that you can look out. Any window that's on the second level of a home that faces into my private backyard will affect negatively my property value, so that's a concern for me. Also, this planter, which I'm not real clear on, I tried to find out this morning about that. It looks like it's on the second level. If it is, and I guess the question is how do they get up there and take care of it? If it's something you can walk on, I'm not sure, then that's a concern because then it kind of becomes almost like a deck that the tenant could use. And of course, anybody that gets up there can clearly see into my backyard, and once again, it's an invasion of my privacy and devalues my property even more. So I do have a couple, I think, solutions for the kitchen window, and that is that there is another exterior wall in the kitchen which faces the main house on the same property on 903 West Mission Street. So I would just question, could that kitchen window be moved to that wall rather than facing into my private backyard? The other option are skylights, of course. That gives lots of light and would not invade my privacy. And so what I'm asking for, I think, is fairly minor considering this entire project. I mean, a second-story, second-unit dwelling is obviously going to negatively affect my property value. So, I mean, I just ask that you guys consider my backyard privacy and not have any of this further devalue my property. So I just ask that you would state that there couldn't be windows that face on the second story that face directly into my private backyard. I mean, that is an enclosed backyard, which is the most private part of my lot. And that it can't be allowed in future modifications, and that if this planter on the second level has like a walking or sitting area for people to get up to, that could not be allowed anywhere that would face directly or be able to see into my private backyard. So I guess I would just say thank you, and hopefully you will read my letter for any more details. And I appreciate you considering my concerns.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, before she leaves, can I ask a question?
Sure. Go right ahead.
Did you see the revised window solution that the architects came up with that shows that window sill is 7.5 feet high? So somebody would have to be 8 feet tall to look
or stand
over.
on a ladder or whatever. But yes, they could still see. I mean, it is a clear window, is my understanding, that they could see through. Somebody could see through it. So I would just ask if there is another exterior wall, could it not go on that wall, which actually faces her main house instead of having to face my private backyard?
Just wanted to make sure you saw that
Yeah,
revised
I did. Thank you.
scheme.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, Mimi Greenberg.
So I also submitted a letter, but I'll just read it to you. So, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a property owner in the city of Santa Barbara and worked in real estate in this fair city for many years. Approximately 10 years ago, I represented Pam Brandon in the purchase of 905 West Mission, a home adjacent to this subject property. I apologize for not writing this letter sooner, and I'll just let you know, I guess this is a little, sorry for the language, but ass backwards. She did not receive a letter when this all began last year. It just didn't come. So she didn't know that you had several meetings regarding this ahead of time. And the only reason she sort of raised her hand and said, wait, is because she got a letter regarding the modification, which was sent out. And that's the first she knew about this. So I know this is a little bit backwards to be talking about these window issues right now. But she didn't receive that letter, and then she got the first modification letter, which brought this all up. So the non-receipt of the initial notice is a shame, as the Brandon home would be the most affected by the granting of this modification. The plans submitted for the subject property modification allow windows that would overlook the Brandon property. It is no surprise that the loss of privacy to the Brandon backyard will be a huge negative. I'm surprised the designer did not incorporate skylights or solar tubes for just this reason. The loss of privacy, windows, and light from a second-story structure adjacent to any backyard is an obvious double negative. From a real estate standpoint, which house would you buy? The one with the traditional private backyard or the one with the looming two-story building blocking the morning sun and windows watching your backyard every move next door? Think about your own backyards and how you would react if the city was considering allowing, bending the rules by granting a modification, your neighbor to steal your privacy and your morning sun. I can't tell you the exact potential dollar amount of lost value to the Brandon property, but I assure you it would be significant. I understand the city now allows accessory buildings on R2 5,000 square foot lots. I would not think that the city would include approval of bird's eye views of adjacent property backyards. If you must, City of Santa Barbara, allow these accessory buildings on such small lots, the least you could do is protect the adjacent property's privacy and values. This is a perfect application for solar tubes and skylights or non-clear windows. If it's just light they want, then those obscured windows would work too. I would hope that the city, via its representatives, would not allow a modification that would initially allow a windfall to one property owner at the expense of another. That's it.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll bring it back to staff.
We also had a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay, thanks very much. I bring that back then to the board for questions. Keith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the first couple of questions are for staff. As I'm understanding this plan, north is towards Gillespie, so the solar access requirements don't really pertain to the property to the south. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. And can you guys comment at all about the notification prior to show, or what was required there and what was done?
We have a label to Miss Brandon that is in the file, so a notice did go out to her. I don't know what happened to it once put it in the mail.
I think the clear story window, looking at the section, would be pretty difficult to look into the neighbor's yard unless you were standing on top of the counter and leaning over the upper cabinet. So I think the privacy impact there is pretty minimal. I would throw out to the applicants that perhaps they consider doing a sandblasted or something finished to knock down the clear nature of that, perhaps as a kind of a goodwill gesture there for privacy. Oh, yeah, sorry. Questions.
We're in questions.
Sorry.
Questions.
Jumping ahead. Okay, questions. What's the... Do we have a color for the metal slats?
It would be that light color on the color chart.
This one? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that trim and the roofing material on this. The darker gray, actually, the darker gray is on this element.
Okay.
All the other metal elements are on that light.
The lighter, and the same with this aluminum panel?
Yeah, that would be clear anodized aluminum.
Okay, those are my questions. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Dawn?
No question.
Gary?
No question.
Okay. Keith, it's up for comments.
Okay, now on the comments. Although now that I'm on comments, I see a question. But anyway, so you heard my spiel about the clear story light, so I would throw that out that perhaps you could consider the glazing there as a goodwill gesture. I'm assuming on this west elevation where it calls out corrugated on the little awning over the door that that really wants to be standing seam perhaps to kind of go with everything else rather than throwing a different material in there.
We kind of thought it would be, it's a little more desperate from the rest of the design. I mean, it's a minor detail that we could probably do standing seam just as easily. I mean, it's a point well taken. I know we called it as corrugated. It's not an accident, but I don't think that would be a sticking point for us.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's a suggestion that
probably would look nice. I was like nice little standing seam.
Perhaps if it ties in with everything else.
Who's that?
This little piece here. Just this little eyebrow.
Personally, I don't know, and this is kind of not my... I would have looked at maybe the horizontal slats as a different material, maybe a wood material to contrast with everything else. So not given that, I think the lighter colors in smaller areas, so overall it's more of a dark palette. I guess I'm okay with that. I would just throw this out. I would caution you about the spacing of the standing seams just for oil canning and stuff that you may want to shrink just to reduce the width of the panels so that they stay flat. But that's kind of a detail. So I think those are the comments I have. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Keith. Dawn?
I have basically the same comments. I certainly am always wanting to preserve privacy for neighbors, but given the height of the sill and the fact that there are cabinets above, you would have to be standing on the counter, like cleaning that windowsill to even be able to look out, and I'm not even so sure you could look out over into the backyard from that perspective. I certainly don't think there's going to be a lot of standing on the counter looking over into the neighbor's property, and I do think skylights and sonotubes are a great idea, but I also can appreciate the design and the incorporation of the ribbon windows in this particular design and relief of the elevation in that way. So I do think that the privacy is preserved. And I agree with Keith's comments about the finishes. I did have a comment about this plaster. That's plaster, right?
No.
No, that's this
This
metal.
is part of your the standing seam roof and then the fascia as well. Or
It's all one contiguous material there, right? That turns the corner.
supposed to read
Same thing
over.
over here.
yes.
So it's kind of a question comment why this one isn't thick like this one is. This return looks kind of spindly as it comes down, and this one.
I think that's something happening in the way this elevation. It should have the same dimension.
Yeah, I think it should have the same dimension as it comes down there.
I agree.
And I completely agree with the difficulty that you might have with the siding, unless you have a.
We're also
thicker
using
gauge.
non-reflective metal. We're clear on indicating that too, which helps kind of bring down the reflective kind of variations, and you get the larger.
The variations, yeah. I think you're going to have more luck with the heavier gauge metal on that if you go with that wide of a panel. But I don't really have anything else to add.
Okay, thanks, Don. Gary?
Mr. Chair. I'm still opposed to this project as of architectural style for this neighborhood. But one thing I want to say about this particular project is when we're changing the architectural style from one type of building to another type of building, and we're keeping a lot of the original integrity of the existing house, i.e. the gabled roof, I don't think that that's completely compatible with this style. And I think that if we're going to go and we're going to bring in this new style, the roof pitches and how that is incorporated with this style should be looked at. And I, for one, am not sold on how this is represented. And I think the board members should look closely at this, and if we are going to go with this and we are going to change the style, it should be somewhat exceptional, and I find that it's not.
Okay, thanks, Gary. I do have one question that I failed to ask. The perimeter fencing being set 5 feet back from the existing retaining wall. Is this what we're talking about here? That this should be 5 feet back from that? That's not it? Where is the...
It's on the other side. There's no retaining wall here.
Locate the perimeter fencing 5 feet back from the existing retaining wall to comply with ordinance requirements.
Yeah, I understood the point of that. I kind of, you know the answer to that?
I never got that comment, but there is a low wall here now.
I think that's what there's. Yeah, the existing. I guess what's being discussed is there's an existing yard, and then there's a bit of a retaining piece of concrete around it existing.
And then with a fence on top, and the combination of the wall and the fence cannot exceed 42 inches in height.
Yeah.
That would have
only if you...
Or setback.
Yeah, or
Which
setback.
we didn't want to set it back. We didn't
You're
want to
losing
disturb
all the-
this existing condition, so we're just keeping it low.
So could the fence be... Is the fence supposed to be back 5 feet from the property line?
It's not necessarily supposed to be, no.
So what's
It is
the...
if it's over the height requirement.
What was the-
But it's not 5 feet.
So
It's-
yeah, it was a weird comment,
the
yeah.
setback is 10 feet.
So 42 inches is what you're allowed in that.
And you're not even that high.
That's 10 feet, isn't
Right.
it?
Yeah.
We'll be at 42 inches.
Yeah,
So it won't exceed
anyway, that's
the
why we
limit.
provided this drawing, just to clarify what was happening here. So here's your existing retaining area.
Yes.
Oh, it
And the
is
fence.
retaining there.
It's retaining a little bit of dirt because the grade of the house and the grade of the street are a little different levels.
Oh, so this, technically, this is not allowed within the front yard
It
setback?
is, yeah.
As long as the total doesn't exceed
Right.
36.
As long as this
from the
total
grade.
is not
Yeah, so
142.
we didn't put the fence on top of it.
You didn't put 42 on top of
Yeah,
it.
we've kept it. And that was what we had before, but it just was. There's no clarity around it, so we drew this to show it, so that the absolute height of the whole thing combined is 42.
All right.
I think the misinterpretation prior was that we were putting a 42-inch fence on top of it, and we were measuring from the back side, not from the front side, so that's what we tried to...
Okay. I think that the whole issue with the window facing the southern side, I think that the horizontal high-level windows above the cabinet really solves the privacy issue. I mean, I agree with my other board members. I don't think anyone's going to get up there. And especially with the cabinets in front, it forces you to not be able to put your face close to the glass. You have to be back, at least at the cabinet distance. And to be able to look down, I mean, your head is already hitting the ceiling there. Somebody had to be, it really forced to be able to do that. I think when I look at that elevation and I look at the combination of the hedge that you're doing here, I think that the actual slot that's up here on the mass of that building actually works better than having no slot at all. So as far as making it frosted versus clear, I think the way that it's designed, the height, I think takes away the privacy concerns, and I would rather see it be left clear so that the owners of the unit inside could feel more open by, and I think you should be able to get a view of the hills towards the south, right?
Yeah, on the backside of the mesa.
So, I mean, that's one way where you're not looking into somebody's backyard, but you're being able to have a view out beyond to bring a view in and of a high-level window. So, I think that that's acceptable in this context. As far as the planter that goes, the wraparound planter, when I look at the floor plan, I mean, the planter is really only usable for putting plants in there and for somebody who has to possibly come and service them. And it's either going to be by a ladder or squeezing your way through here. So I don't think it's anyone really lingering here. The plants being in front of the long window, I think also is a good factor together, which mitigates the length of the window going down. So I'm comfortable with that also. I just find that the project has reached a comfortable spot. I agree with my other board members on your choice of metallic colors and kind of an all metallic palette, and but I don't. It doesn't reach a level where I have any kind of wanting to have it changed. I just think it could have been a little bit warmer, but I think if this is your palette and you're happy with it, that I'm fine. I think you just have to use your landscape well to kind of soften the metallic appeal of it. Do the slats, the horizontal slats, are they tight onto each other, or do they have a gap?
Well, yeah, and I can kind of answer a question that came up. We looked at doing them in wood, and what we're finding when we do these things in wood at this scale, if you get that slender dimension, they don't stay straight. You end up with more fasteners, and they're just difficult to. I mean, you come back 5 years later, and they don't hold up well. Yeah. And I think what we wanted to do is keep it a little bit more delicate here. So we're using metal so we can keep the dimensions down because the house is essentially small. And we'll use like a flat gray, and I think with the combination of the planting, and I think it'll work out. I think the idea is driving that is to keep it delicate and not, and you can do that. You can do any size with metal, and with wood, get down to the sizes, and they just start to move on you, and they're not attractive, and they split. And if you use the wood, you got to use heavy dimensions, and it kind of gets it a little bit too beefy, for lack of another term.
Josh.
Okay.
How thick are you thinking for the metal? Because, I mean, the wood will do this, but the metal can do that.
An inch by, 3.
Okay. All right.
Small.
An inch by 3?
And then as it
That's
spreads
not
out, as it comes up to the railing, you intend to separate it too, so it'll open up a bit and lighten up as it gets taller.
Do you have a gap between the slats?
Yeah.
How wide is that gap generally?
I don't remember what we drew it, but it should start off about an inch at least.
Okay, that's good. So you're going to get some kind of shadow group in there.
And we want it to read as transparent.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, as it gets up taller in the structure as you get above the deck line. We want it to open up, so when you're inside, you're not looking at a big grill in front of you.
And then just one last comment to add to
What
just
did we
to
call out on
address
there? I might have-
Gary. I know Gary has concerns about the more contemporary style. I think for me the one pitch of that roof, I think it's at that pitch where I think it works with this rectilinear block. So I can see where you're coming from, but I think the steep pitchness of it works in this little scale of structure, and I can find that it falls into working with the three blocks. I think that they work well enough together and don't bother me. So I just wanted to give you my comment on that.
I agree.
Okay, so I'm open for a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
But take a stab at it. I'll make a motion for preliminary approval, indefinite continuance back to full board for final with the following comments. Consider the material choice for the entry canopy. I would like to see some good size material samples of all the final finishes with the exception of the concrete, just so we can really vet the metal finish, because I think that's going to be real critical as far as being non-reflective. And that's it.
Thanks. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dawn.
And just under discussion. I don't think it needs to go in the minutes, but Josh, just correct that little detail as it turns. Just those dimensions, just your dimensions. It doesn't need to be
this
on.
right here. Just basically our eave fascias need to all be consistent.
You'll pick that up in final anyway, so I agree. And I second the motion.
Okay, that's all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Against? One against, Gary. Okay, thank you very much. And with that concludes our evening at the ABR. Good night, Santa Barbara.